The liberation of the Netherlands was difficult. The Canadian soldiers had fought valiantly through some of the most difficult conditions imaginable in an effort to free the Dutch. That bravery and conviction led to a bond of friendship that has lasted generations.
It's very hard to describe. I mean, here we were, as Holland being a country of free thinkers, valuing freedom very much so, and here they were oppressed for 5 long years. They had been clamped down, they had been persecuted, and so forth. And all of a sudden, we were liberated, and the Dutch have never forgotten this.
There's none better than the Hollanders. They were great. I don't think another country could have taken it the way Holland did.
The Canadians were well regarded, well treated, and certainly well liked, and of course, because we were able to liberate a good part of Holland.
But you can see why they're so appreciative of what we've done for them. Not just the fighting, but the fact that we got in there and saved them from starvation.
Well, it just binds two people together. We've helped them out when they were in a real jam, and they appreciate it. And their appreciation seems to get better as time goes on.
To realize they come from so far and then they die so far for us strangers to realize that, you know.
But in Holland came the liberation, and they sold the estate for a longer time, so they had the possibility to get in touch with the people. And I think until now this bond of friendship is still there.
And a lot of Canadians did marry Dutch girls because we became so friendly and so on.
And it's really it's a fascinating story, you know. And then when what they went through, it was very, very hard on them because they hardly spoke English. You know, I mean, I guess love is a universal language, but when the things all settled down, it was very tough for them.
I think it has remained very vivid with the Dutch people, and then eventually, when the wave of immigration started, I think very much the first choice was Canada.
Oh, it was a wonderful experience because they were so grateful, and still are to this very day.
They just love the Canadians.
Even to this day, I mean, the word Canadian in Holland, as everybody will tell you, is magic.
Well, you know, you identify yourself as a Canadian, all doors are open.
It's been 60 years, and I find it very difficult to believe that the Dutch, people of Holland, still feel the same about us as they did then.
It's immensely important, and it lives through the next generation and the generation after that.
Holland owes a lot to the Canadians.
It took years to verify the impact of the Nazi pogroms on the Netherlands. Of the 140,000 Jews who lived in the country at the time of the occupation, over 100,000 were killed, the highest percentage lost in all of Europe, with only Poland suffering to the same degree. Of the 24,000 that went into hiding, 8,000 were caught, but 16,000 survived, thanks to the bravery of many Dutch citizens.
When you have Yad Vashem, the Poles and the Dutch have the highest number of righteous Gentiles. So the help was also higher, but it was also much more dangerous for Jews.
For some, the bravery of their saviors must be recognized.
I arranged to get them the Gold Medal of Israel, the Yad Vashem medal. It took me 5 years, but I thought it was very important that you step up and say, hey, you know, I know what you did. I could have cost you your family. I think they're heroes.
The bonds between Canada and the Netherlands are evident today in so many ways.
There were some veterans ahead of me in Schiphol Airport, and as they went through the passport check, the veteran presented his passport, and the custom official said, "Sir, we didn't ask your passport when you entered here 50 years ago, and we don't ask for it now."
There's the bond between the different cities. For instance, there is Burlington and Apeldoorn, they're twin cities, and there's an exchange every year. And so, but even the people living here, they've never forgotten.
And you know, of course, we have the connection in Ottawa where the tulips are come out.
One of the greatest examples of the bonds between the two countries is the exceptional hospitality extended to the Canadian veterans who returned to the Netherlands.
I'm the chairman of the committee Welcome Again Veterans. We invited the veterans to come over to Holten. They were hosted in host families, and we had a ceremony here. In 1980 we had about 100, in 1985 about 200, in 1990 we had 700, and in 1995 we had 4,000 of them to host in this area.
I did go over to Holland, the 50th anniversary, and it was the most rewarding experience I've ever had.
And of course you've heard about the parades in Apeldoorn, all right? Well, I don't call Apeldoorn a parade. I think it's one of the biggest love-ins I've ever been to in my life.
300,000 people show up at a parade of Canadians.
People were just shaking hands and hugging you and all that. It's quite an experience.
But they were throwing flowers at us and hugging and kissing. Boy, over 300,000 people were lining the streets. Couldn't believe the emotion.
One of the proudest medals I wear is this medal called Thank You Canada. I came from the Dutch government. Everybody, any Canadian who served in Holland got one of these.
For 6 decades, Canada and the Netherlands have enjoyed a warm friendship, one that has grown stronger over the years. The gratitude of the Dutch for their liberation and their reverence for the 7,600 Canadians who died freeing them has never wavered. It is a bond that will live forever.
It'll never go away. It's been there. Talk to any Dutch child, 8 years and up, and ask them, tell me about the Canadians. They know. Canadians came, liberated my grandpa and my grandma. They know. As a matter of fact, our national anthem, O Canada, is taught. It's part of the curriculum in the Dutch schools.
The kids are being taught this at school, and I wish it would be done here at the school. There's not enough emphasis.
May 5 in Holland is a national holiday. They call it Liberation Day. And all the school children in the various towns and villages decorate our graves.
But they're being kept meticulously by kids. The kids look after them. They get assigned a grave at a certain, when they're at a certain age, and that's the grave they will look after. And that's just part of their life, and it's just amazing.
When I walk around, I always get sad when I read the ages of the young men who are buried here. 18, 19, 20 years old. They came over to a strange land far from home and gave their life for people they don't know. We don't know the men who are buried here. We don't know their faces, but we know that they came to sacrifice their life for freedom. So they, in one or other, they are our friends. And we will always take care of this cemetery to thank the people who came over to liberate us.
Every time I go in there, I get tears in my eyes, thinking of our boys and the way they're being looked after there. They give you a lot of pride that what you've been involved in, although you sometimes think of the sacrifice of so many of our fellows, but in the end, the alternative was just horrendous. One thing I'd like to say I am proud of is what our generation did for Canada. I don't think the present generations realize the contribution we made as a nation, put Canada on the map.
I think it's a task for the adults, for the people, to teach children what it means to be free. and that a lot of people sacrifice their life to give others freedom. We have every year a ceremony here with children. These children did hear the stories of their grandparents, and we teach the children to keep the peace going on. We do this on Christmas Eve. Then we put burning candles on the graves here. They burn during Christmas night as a token of light of freedom. And to say thank you for those who sacrificed their life for our freedom. And I think that's the special bond between Holland and Canada.